Hello, my name is Leah Mushid. I'm a reporter here at the Western Standard, and today we're going to talk again about the Care First in auto insurance system, which is still predicted to be introduced in 2027. And to talk about this with me, we have Mark McCourt, who is a personal injury lawyer at McCourt Law and has over 30 years of experience. So, Mark, the first question I have for you is there was a similar system in Alberta that was going to be introduced in 2003 to 2004. So could you tell us more about that and how your advocacy helped stop it from being introduced?
Sure. So, as you say, Leah, about 22 years ago, the Alberta government was looking at bringing in some auto insurance reforms at the behest of the very powerful auto insurance lobby back in 2003, 2004. The auto insurance industry was claiming to the Conservative government under Premier Ralph Klein at the time that they were barely making ends meet. The auto insurance industry was teetering on the brink of bankruptcy, and so Premier Klein's finance minister, Pat Nelson, came up with a proposal that she put to the Conservative caucus that would have eliminated pain and suffering claims, capped them at about $2,500 to $4,000 for injuries nothing short of catastrophic. And so that was going to be put to a vote back in October of 2003. And the day before that vote was going to be held in Conservative caucus, Alberta Conservative caucus, a Calgary Herald columnist by the name of Danielle Smith put out a column in the Calgary Herald saying, "My goodness, if the Alberta government goes ahead with this sort of tort de forme at the insistence of the powerful auto insurance lobby, that would be unconservative, unconstitutional, un-Albertan, unfair, and selling out Albertans to mollify a multi-billion-dollar insurance industry." And so, thanks certainly in part to Danielle Smith's advocacy, the vote the very next day was held, and Finance Minister Pat Nelson's auto insurance reform plan was defeated by one vote, and Ralph Klein ordered his caucus to go back to the drawing board, and they came up with a $4,000 cap on pain and suffering compensation for minor strains and sprains and whiplash injuries that heal relatively quickly, basically within about 12 weeks.
Okay, interesting. So you're talking about back in 2003 to 2004, you said that it was the insurance lobbyists that were the one pushing for this. So just so viewers know, is it the same insurance lobbyists now that are pushing for the same, well, it is not even a bill anymore, it's been passed and everything, but are they the same ones? How's that work?
It's the same insurance lobby. It's the Insurance Bureau of Canada. The insurance lobbyist has long since moved on to better things. Strangely, this old guy is still here fighting the good fight, but there's a new insurance lobbyist and another, young, fresh-faced fellow who by the name of Aaron Sutherland, who's shoveling his wisdom towards the UCP caucus now on behalf of the Insurance Bureau of Canada. So the same insurance, the IBC, but it's a different fellow that is leading the charge.
Different guy. Okay, that makes sense. Well, then my next question would have to be, do you think the province keeps attempting to implement this type of system? Why do you think that is? Since they already had it try to pass in 2003 to 2004, is it just because of the lobbyists? What else, or is there also something else that might be influencing? Yeah.
Absolutely, Leah. It is just because of the lobby, the insurance lobby. So the Insurance Bureau of Canada, their job is to try to convince governments, and in the province of Alberta, obviously the Alberta government, to reduce the rights of injured people to fair compensation from the insurance companies that insure reckless drivers, and frankly, so that auto insurance companies can make a bunch more money. And so every time we see a new government elected in Alberta, we see the insurance lobby trot out their old arguments. It's always the same arguments that we are having a really tough time making ends meet. We are teetering on the brink of bankruptcy, and would you pretty please protect us from the valid claims of innocent Albertans who've been hurt by reckless drivers? And so we saw that in 2003, 2004. We saw that in 2015 when the Notley NDP government was brought in place. Even the Notley NDP government brought in some mild reforms to the minor injury regulation back in about 2018. And then in 2019, when Jason Kenney's UCP was elected, the Jason Kenney's press secretary was turned out to then become the president of the Insurance Bureau of Canada, and the UCP's campaign chair for the 2019 election immediately became a lobbyist for the Insurance Bureau of Canada. And so, and interestingly, though, even though Nick Koolsbergen, the former head of the UCP campaign, who became an IBC lobbyist, and Celeste Power, who Jason Kenney's former press secretary, who became president of the IBC, even though they were pressuring Premier Kenney and his finance minister at the time, Travis Taves, to bring in no-fault legislation, which this current Daniel Smith government euphemistically refers to as Care First, even though these very powerful, well-connected people were lobbying the Kenney government to do that. Travis Taves, who thankfully for Albertans and for plaintiff counsel possesses a triple-digit IQ, he wasn't buying what the insurance lobby was selling, and he, despite a 500-plus page report that said, "Oh, you should definitely bring in no fault, Travis," he said, "No way, Jose, we're not going to do that." And of course, he's gone now, and thanks. I'm sure the insurance lobby is very thankful that Nate Horner is now the finance minister, because I'm going to be honest, I don't think that he's the sharpest tool in the shed.
Okay, well, next question. Okay, I also would be interested in knowing the 2003, 2004, like how similar are they, like, to the one that they want to introduce in 2027? What are the similarities that you can like draw between the two?
Well, I can tell you that in 2004, in October of 2004, the Ralph Klein government brought in the minor injury regulation, which caps at at the time $4,000. It's up to about $6,200 now with inflation, but it caps at a few $1,000s pain and suffering compensation for whiplash injuries, strains, and sprains that heal relatively quickly. And as I say, Ralph Klein's finance minister wanted something quite significantly different than that. She wanted a cap on compensation for injuries that were nothing short of catastrophic. We're talking about brain injuries, injuries just short of paraplegia, quadriplegia, injuries just short of third-degree burns, et cetera. And what Ralph Klein did is he said, well, let's see what my conservative caucus thinks of that. And he listened to his caucus. Now, interestingly, by way of contrast, Danielle Smith asked her cabinet, what do you think of this no-fault plan, this so-called Care First plan that Nate Horner's finance department is pushing at the insistence of the powerful insurance lobby? And my understanding is that Danielle Smith's cabinet voted 13-11 against bringing in this Care First, and Danielle Smith said basically close enough. And is going ahead with this Care First, despite the fact that most of her cabinet voted against it. And so, I worked with Ralph Klein back in 2003 on this tort reform issue. I met with Ralph Klein, and Danielle Smith, you are no Ralph Klein.
Okay, next question. Can you tell us more about the Rebecca ad that was what's it called, like publicized the advertisement in the 2003 to 2004 period.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, so my daughter Rebecca, who was 7 years old at the time, she's pushing 30 now, and actually works at my office here at McCourt Law Offices. Uh, she was our sort of our poster girl in that advertisement that basically was a composite of people under the age of 18 who have been injured in automobile accidents. And what we were doing in that advertisement was pointing out that under the proposed Cap Nelson legislation at the time, Finance Minister Nelson in 2003, that a 7-year-old girl walking in a marked crosswalk on her way to a school or a playground, mowed down by a distracted driver, texting or something while driving, would be entitled to zero compensation from that reckless driver's automobile insurance company for her pain and suffering, loss of enjoyment of life, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, the public and in fact newspaper columnists, as I say, including Danielle Smith, were just they thought that this proposed legislation was abhorrence, and of course it was defeated. Now, interestingly, this so-called Care First legislation is, well, frankly, even worse than that. And so, if I were to bring back that Rebecca ad, as I say, Rebecca would be a little bit older now, but it remains the same. That if whether your name is Rebecca or Henry or Martha or listen, basically any severely normal Albertan who is severely injured in an automobile accident in this province, come 2027, if this Care First scheme goes ahead, will not be entitled to fair compensation from the reckless driver's insurance company for their serious injuries. And that's just outrageous. And it goes so much against what Danielle Smith herself said in that newspaper column back in 2003, that there's a reason that my coffee mug says, "Hypocrisy, thy name is Marlena."
Okay. Well, then I guess also I would ask you more about how the new system is going to work when someone wants like more compensation than they're getting with their insurance. Because I know, like, I talked to the Alberta Insurance Rate Board, Auto Insurance Rate Board, and they were talking to me about how their insurance, like the person who gets hit, is going to try to like compensate them, for example, for their health coverages and whatever happened to them. And on top of that, it'll be like kind of like workers' comp. But the thing is with the health one is as well, it's like a 50K cap, I think it is. But that's also because like your doctor is going to be the one, or the doctor they choose for you. I'm not certain about that, but the doctor is supposed to be the one that's like deciding when you're completely healed and stuff. But the thing is, I heard like from, I think it was either Ricky or one of his coworkers, about how like the insurance companies pay the doctors so that like they don't have to keep covering the person who's suffering. So, and that's basically what your guys' job is to help people who don't have the coverage because of their insurance. So how would that like work under the Care First? Like, are we going to see more insurance companies paying off doctors and stuff? Basically, is my question.
Yeah, or at least the same number of insurance companies paying off doctors. And I think I saw that interview the Western Standard had with Ricky Baga at Crash Lawyer Calgary. And if I'm recalling correctly, he observed that under the current system where no matter whose fault the accident is, somebody injured in a car crash in Alberta is entitled to up to $50,000 in reimbursement for medical expenses, or up to 2 years, whichever comes first. That in his experience, maybe something along the lines of 1 in 1,000 if people ever hit that $50,000 limit. That's certainly consistent with my firm's experience too. That the current limit of $50,000 is ample in all but the most catastrophic of claims. Interestingly, when the Klein government 20 odd years ago brought in that minor injury regulation, they actually increased the limit for medical expense reimbursement under that accident benefits portion of the standard auto policy from $10,000 to $50,000. And the insurance lobby predicted that, well, if you do that, it's going to double the amount of our payouts, even though the it's 5 times the amount of the limit. The insurance lobby said, well, that's probably going to double the amount of our payments. Payments went down under Section B of the standard auto policy for medical expenses after the on paper limit was increased from $10,000 to $50,000, because what insurance companies do, and what they're going to continue to do under Care First, is when somebody makes a claim for these so-called Care First benefits, the insurance company is going to send you, the injured party, to their special doctor to get a second opinion on, do you really need this treatment? And that doctor, for a relatively nominal fee, maybe a couple of $1,000 paid by the insurance company, is going to say, you know what, I have never seen a more healthy specimen in my office in my days. You're all better. Congratulations. You are good to get back to work, and you don't need any more physio.
Yeah, that's all. Like, when I was listening to that, that's the only thing I was very concerned about, because I was just like, but who's to say the insurance will pay? Like, I feel like you need someone to protect you, or like someone to speak for you.
Yeah,
have more like power and say. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. And who you need, obviously, is Ricky Baggett or me or somebody who has practiced personal injury law for a while and is not afraid to go up against the powerful auto insurance lobby. And that's probably the biggest problem with this Care First scheme is that the whole idea, as Nate Horner has suggested in a press conference that they had in November of 2024 announcing this Care First scheme, is that what we want to do is save some money by basically taking the lawyers out of the system. But guess what? If you take the lawyers out of the system, you take the protection for Albertans out of the system. Remember a cartoon I saw, somebody has found this this magic lamp, and the genie comes out and says, you have 3 wishes, and the fella says to the genie, okay, wish number 1, let's get rid of all the lawyers. And the genie said, done. And he said, there you go, you have no more wishes. And the fella said, but genie, you said I have 3 wishes. And the genie said, so sue me.
I like that. Yeah, like because I know like some people are a bit pessimistic about like the fact that some people will try to get more money just because they can, but then at the same time you still need some sort of protection. If you take the protection out of the picture, there's, yeah, like you said, the joke kind of tells all. Yeah.
It's true. And yeah, another lawyer I know, Karen Lall, who I believe has written the odd guest column in the Western Standard about this issue. He's pointed out that under a no fault plan, where no matter whose fault the accident is, you're entitled to try to get compensation from the insurance company. That what you may very well see, and we see this in other provinces that have no fault, is an increased number of accidents and possibly an increased number of staged accidents, where people create a car accident on purpose and then claim a bunch of injuries in an attempt to get compensation for not only for their pain and suffering and for medical expenses, but for the time off work for that high-paying job that they allegedly had that doesn't seem to have any evidence of the job being a thing on any CRA documentation. That is a legitimate concern, and perhaps for that reason, what we see in many no-fault jurisdictions is when you bring in no-fault, car crashes increase, because not only is there more incentive to try to perhaps commit fraud against insurance companies, but also because of the fact that under a no-fault system, typically, while rates tend to go up still for good drivers, rates temporarily go down for bad drivers. And because the reckless driver's insurance company no longer has to compensate that reckless driver's victims of injured victims. If in the case of a car crash, there is less incentive for careless motorists to drive safely. And you know, I wish this united conservative government were actually conservative. I wish they actually listened to truly conservative economists, such as, for example, Jack Mintz, who has stated time and time again that when you bring in no fault sorts of legislation, what you're doing is ultimately reducing the likelihood that people are going to drive safely. And not only, of course, from a human perspective, does that cause more injuries and fatalities on the road, which that alone should be enough to say, well, no fault's a bad idea. But if you increase injuries and fatalities on the road, what you ultimately do is increase auto insurance premiums. And that defeats the entire alleged purpose of this Care First program, which according to Finance Minister Nate Horner, is to try to reduce premiums for Alberta drivers. Now he's admitted recently in a column by Rick Dell of the Calgary Herald, but well, actually, premiums might not go down; they might go up as much as $400 a year for the average Alberta motorist. And frankly, I would think if I'm Danielle Smith, I'm wondering at this point, well, then what on earth was the point of that finance department proposing this Care First? I would recommend that she slam on the brakes and reverse course on this Care First scheme.
Okay, well, on that note, I kind of wanted to talk about the tort reform plan that you want to introduce instead of the Care First system. Like, since I don't know that much about that, and probably lots of viewers maybe do know, but maybe they also don't. So why don't you tell us more about that?
Yeah, well, we've seen polling over the last 4 or 5 years, and it's very consistent that somewhere in the area of 70 to 80% of Albertans are strongly in favor of the concept of rights and responsibilities. They think that bad drivers should be held accountable. They think that innocent victims of reckless motorists should be entitled to fair compensation from bad drivers, insurers for their pain and suffering, loss of enjoyment of life, etc. And at the same time, of course, Albertans would like to save a few bucks on, well, everything, certainly including their auto insurance premiums. So the question is, how does one have their cake and eat it too? And what myself and a number of other lawyers have done is, including the Alberta Civil Trial Lawyers Association, for example, is come up with conservative, nuanced reforms to the current tort system, also known as the at-fault auto insurance system, so that premiums can be reduced for good Alberta motorists, and at the same time maintain the core of Albertans' rights to fair compensation if injured by reckless drivers. So, for example, what I have suggested is, again, going back to that minor injury regulation that was put in place by Premier Klein's government in 2004, that caps compensation at just a shade under $6,200 now for 2025 actions for pain and suffering for people who are hurt in a car accident and have whiplash injuries or sprains and strains that heal relatively quickly, basically within roughly 3 to 6 months. That comprises about, according to the Insurance Bureau of Canada themselves, about 80% of auto accident cases. My proposal would be, if you remove that 80% of cases, those injuries that are currently captured by the minor injury regulation, remove that from the tort system and give Albertans the option, if they want, to purchase that sort of optional coverage from their own insurance company. That would reduce premiums for good Alberta motorists by between about $100, which is my estimate, to perhaps as much as $200, which is the insurance lobby's estimate. And there's some other things that can be done. There's something called prejudgment interest, which is payable on injury claims. My proposal would be to eliminate any prejudgment interest on pain and suffering compensation. And then I've kind of stolen some ideas from that economist, Jack Mintz, who I mentioned before. He's suggested and has been suggesting for decades, for at least over 20 years, eliminating the insurance premium tax, which is a hidden tax on everybody's insurance premium. And that would save Albertans another roughly 90, $100 a year on their auto insurance premiums. I've got a whole bunch more ideas, and I've put those to the government. I've been putting them to the government for the last 18 months. And it's funny, Danielle Smith, who I was, 20 odd years ago, I was on her national program talking about auto insurance. She quoted me in that Calgary Herald column that I mentioned at the beginning of this interview. But Danielle Smith doesn't seem to be listening to me anymore, and I really think she probably should. And if she doesn't listen to me right quick, I'll be seeing her at the UCP annual general meeting at the end of November up here in Edmonton. So you'll be listening to me then, Danielle.
Okay, well, we'll see then. We'll see. Well, thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate you joining us today. And that's all I have. So if you guys like the video, then definitely subscribe to the Western Standard YouTube channel. Yes, exactly. And you can also check out our website where you can also subscribe for $10 a month. So thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.
Thanks, Leah. Bye-bye.